All right.
Welcome to the Mid-Ohio Valley Public Forum video podcast. This podcast features issues of interest to the residents of the Mid-Ohio Valley area. The coronavirus pandemic has changed civic life greatly throughout our country.
And this is an election year. One of the things that has changed is that candidates for public office can't campaign the way they normally would. Generally, this time of year, they'd be out there doing festivals and fairs and parades and meeting the voters, shaking hands. They can't do any of that now.
So many of our initial podcasts will be interviews with candidates for local and state office. We focused on candidates with primary challenges, and we hope to come back to you in a few weeks and speak to some of the same candidates again for the general election. If you're a candidate and you would like to be interviewed, you can reach out to us through our Facebook page, that's MOV Public Forum, or via email, movpublicforum@gmail.com.
Today, we'll be interviewing Ben Salango. Ben is a candidate for governor of West Virginia. Ben, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We're really pleased to have you.
Well, thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
With that, let's dive right in. Give us your best 1-minute introduction pitch speech.
Well, you know what? I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you all. Yeah, the way that we're campaigning is completely different now. We're doing a lot of Zoom. We're doing a lot of phone calls. I enjoy knocking doors. I can't do that. So it's mostly via conference and video, and then paid media. We're reaching a lot of people that way. But, you know, I have decided to get in this race because West Virginia needs new leadership. We're not on an economic rocket ship ride. We never were, certainly not after this COVID-19, but even before that. And what we need is a governor who's focused on public service rather than self-service. We need somebody who actually wants the job rather than the title. And our bridges are falling apart. Our roads are falling apart. We are in a health pandemic, and we have an opioid crisis. And we need somebody who's going to roll up his sleeves and get things done. I've been doing that for many years, both as a business owner, as a lawyer, and as a Kanawha County Commissioner. And so what I'm asking people for is look at my background, see what I've done, not just promises that are made by politicians, but look at what I've done as a commissioner and as a lawyer, and I truly appreciate the support.
Well, Ben, all candidates are different. What kind of knowledge, skills, background, experiences do you have that sets you apart from the other candidates? You've touched on it a little bit, but go ahead and elaborate.
Yeah. Well, you know, as a lawyer for over 21 years, I've always stood up for the little guy. I've always stood up for those who have been ignored, those who have been neglected. And as a Kanawha County Commissioner, I've done things that they said were impossible. You know, I've been able to diversify the economy. I've been able to work with small businesses, create small businesses, did 12 weeks paid family leave for county employees. And after COVID-19 hit, you know, we were on the forefront making sure that we issued hero pay to our first responders, that we did hero grants to our volunteer firefighters. And so both as a business owner, as a lawyer, as a county commissioner, I've been able to get things done. And that's why you see that I have over 26 labor endorsements. The AFL-CIO, the Sheriff's Association, the firefighters, the Teamsters, the Parkersburg Building Trades, so many others that have gotten behind me because they've seen what I've done over the last 2 decades as a lawyer, as a business owner, as a county commissioner.
What's the main motivation that made you decide to step up and run for office here in 2020?
You know, I decided because we need a full-time governor, you know, not someone that just shows up around election time and makes promises. You know, like everyone else, I'm sick of the career politicians making promises and not following up. We need somebody who can actually get things done. We need results rather than excuses. And that's why I decided to get involved in this race. We need a governor who is focused on the people's business rather than his own business. And that's what I've done for decades.
So maybe this question plays in a little bit to what you just said, but what do you think is your wow factor? What is the one thing about you that if the voters know about it, they would be apt to say, wow, I'm going to vote for that guy?
Well, you know, you look at the endorsements, you look at what I've been able to accomplish. You know, anybody can get on a Zoom or jump on a podium and make promises. What you really want to do is look at what they've accomplished. And if you do that, you'll see that I've created jobs as a small business owner. I've created jobs as a Kanawha County Commissioner. I started a program called the UCAN program, which has been focused on the most economically devastated area of the county from the decline of coal. It's been a success. I was able to start sports tourism, which is a $15 billion a year industry in the United States. And I took an old golf course that was losing about $80,000 a year, converted it into a travel sports complex. We have a lot of folks from Wood County that come down and visit. We get people all over the United States. We just had a tournament last year that sold out 45 hotels, not hotel rooms, 45 hotels all around, you know, southern West Virginia. And it's been a tremendous success. You know, instead of losing $80,000 a year, it's generating millions of dollars throughout the valley and creating jobs. You know, we've had hotels remodeled. We're having hotels open. We're having restaurants open. So it's been a tremendous success. What we need is someone who can focus with out-of-the-box thinking, someone who truly understands how to stimulate the economy, someone who can get things done. And that's what I've been able to do.
So if you're elected, tell us the one thing you want to focus on and accomplish in your first term. You had to prioritize one thing.
You know what? I think it really has to be education. The path to prosperity always starts in the classroom. And so we need to make sure that we're focusing on retaining and recruiting the best and the brightest to teach our children. We've got to make sure that we are starting vocational programs, introducing children in middle school, but then anyone who wants to participate in a vocational program in high school should have that opportunity. We've got to make sure that we do that, because that really changes the landscape of West Virginia. It will stop the population decline. It will do so much more when you have kids that actually have opportunities when they come out of high school. Right now, we're not doing that. So when they come out of high school, their opportunity is Columbus, Cincinnati, Charlotte, instead of staying here in West Virginia. And that's what we need to do. We have to focus on education, not just the ones who are going to college, but we also have to focus on the ones who are not.
Ben, I'm over 6 decades old, and I think that every gubernatorial candidate that I can remember in my lifetime has talked about the need to bring more jobs to West Virginia, and they've all promised to do it. But here we are. The state is still shedding jobs. We're poorer than ever. So how do you plan to do what everyone else has promised to do and failed to do?
You know, if you look over the last 6 decades, we have had some economic, you know, prosperity, but it seems like we'll get a little boost and then it will decline. What we need to do is change the way we think. You know, we can't keep running the same playbook that we've been running since 1950 and 1960 and expect a different result. So what I want to do is focus on West Virginia regionally. I want to divide the Commerce Department up and focus on regional, because what they need in Parkersburg is different than what they need, you know, in McDowell County or Martinsburg or Morgantown. So we have to really focus on each area of the state. We have to make sure that our Commerce Department is working with our local officials. It's the mayors, it's the county commissioners. Those are the ones that hear firsthand when you've got a new business that wants to come in. They know their area better than anyone. And so you have to have a Commerce Department that's broken up regionally and can focus on each area of the state rather than just one area. And that's why we need a governor who understands that that commerce must be focused on regionally rather than just around where his business interests lie. I mean, we have to make sure that we're developing, the Ohio Valley. We've got to make sure that we're working in Wheeling and Martinsburg to really stimulate our economy and focus on those areas, because each one is completely different. Each area offers something different and new, and we have to focus on job creation that way.
Well, this question's for my brother who lives just 15 minutes south of our state's capital and has horrible internet service. Access to high-speed, reliable internet is holding our state back from becoming what it needs to be. What's your plan for getting affordable, reliable, high-speed broadband internet to every corner of our state?
It is shocking to me that we've been talking about this now for what, 10 years or more, where there's no way that West Virginia can compete nationally or internationally for that matter if we don't have high-speed internet. The only way that you're going to be able to teach our kids from home, which the teachers are doing now during COVID-19, the only way that you're going to really be able to bring in new businesses to have high-speed, reliable internet. People can start businesses from home. Things that you can do now that you couldn't do 30 years ago, you can do now from your living room. And so there are plenty of opportunities to do that if we truly focus on it. We've got to make sure that we're working with our federal delegation, which there are many, many federal grants available that can pay for a lot of, but we also got to make it a priority of the state. We've got to make sure that our legislature is focused on it, and we need a governor that's focused on it. Someone who truly understands how to create jobs in this century. We've got to make sure that we understand somebody that understands how to use e-commerce, and that's what I've been able to do. One of my business is an e-commerce business, and I understand and value what high-speed internet can do because I've seen it. I've created businesses at my kitchen table that have been very successful. So we need someone who understands e-commerce, someone who understands internet and what that will do for the state of West Virginia. It will move us so much further ahead than we are now if we focus on it.
Everyone knows that West Virginia's been losing population for decades. We educate our children and they grow up and move out of state. And we don't have people coming in to replace the people who leave. So we've talked about jobs, and we've talked about broadband service. What other ideas do you have that you could bring to the table that will turn that around?
A lot of this goes in together. The lack of opportunity, the issue with education, particularly vocational education, the lack of broadband, the lack of many other things that Charlotte and Columbus and these other cities have. This is why we're losing population. For the first time since 1950, we're below 1.8 million people. We're the only state in America to lose population over that period of time. Many of the states right around us have grown 100%, 200%, and we have not. We're losing population. So we truly have to give our young people a reason to stay here. You do that through expanded vocational opportunities in the middle school and high school level. You do it through student loan forgiveness to attract the best and the brightest in and keep them here. That's the only way that you're going to change the population decline. We've got to make sure that we provide opportunities for those kids when they come out so that it's not so attractive to leave. When I graduated high school, my opportunities were I could go to coal mines, or if I could afford it, I could go to college. I chose to go to college. I paid for it myself, worked full time through college. But now when they come out of high school, if they can't afford college, their only option is to leave. And so that's what we need to prevent. We need to make sure that we're targeting those kids out of high school, because each one that leaves, that's actually 3 or 4, right? Because they're going to go somewhere else, start a family. And that's why we're seeing a population decline, is because for everyone that leaves, that should be 4 or more people. And that's why we've had such a tremendous decline over the years.
Well, we've asked what we see as some of the major issues facing our state. Aside from these, what do you see as the 3 largest problems facing West Virginia, And what are your nutshell plans for dealing with them?
So, I mean, if you look past COVID-19, we're eventually going to get through this. We're still going to have the same problems that we had before, right? We're still going to have an opioid epidemic. We have a plan to battle the opioid epidemic. It's long-term care options, which unfortunately right now don't exist. So when people have a substance abuse problem, they're going to get 28 days of treatment, they're going to be out, and they're going to be right back in the environment that got them there to begin with, right? So we have to make sure that we are focused on long-term recovery. It costs West Virginians $8.8 billion a year. $8.8 billion a year. That's $4,700 and some dollars for every West Virginian because of the opioid and drug epidemic. We have to make it a priority. We have to give long-term treatment options, vocational training and other training, so that when people come out of, when they get through the recovery process, they have other opportunities other than falling right back into that scenario. So that is one problem that we have to tackle. We have to make sure that we are focusing on children. So one of the plans that I have is to remove all of the child issues out of DHHR. DHHR is almost too big to function. So we need to make sure that we have a program that I'm going to develop called the Bureau of Childhood Advocacy. It's going to focus on those 10,000 homeless children. It's going to focus on the truancy issues. It's going to work closely with our schools and our court system to help those kids that are honestly being left behind, not just because of the opioid epidemic, because of economic issues and others. We have to focus on our children. So that's one big issue. I think it is a major issue in West Virginia. Third, the population decline, which we've talked about. That is really one of the biggest issues in West Virginia, is the population decline, because our expenses are pretty much staying the same, but there are fewer people here to pay them. So we have to make sure that we expand our population, expand our revenue base, and do everything that we can to start new industry in West Virginia and start creating new jobs.
We are often our own harshest critic. And so I've got a two-part question for you. What do you see as your worst quality? And what do you feel is your best quality?
You know, my worst and my best may be the same. It's funny, it depends on who you ask, because if you ask my wife, she says I'm a workaholic. That 60 and 70-hour weeks are the norm for me. You know, I've done that since since law school. I've always really buckled down and focused and tried to work as hard as possible. On the other side of that, my best quality is I truly enjoy work. I love getting things done. You know, at the age of 15, I earned my union card bagging groceries at Kroger's. I worked through high school. I worked through college, law school. You know, I've always been a worker. And I think that's what West Virginia needs. They need somebody who is going to work long hours. They're going to roll up their sleeves and get things done. That's what we don't have now. That's what West Virginia desperately needs. So honestly, it really depends. My worst quality may be my best quality, depending on who's looking at it.
Well, with that, we'd like to do a little section called Getting to Know the Person. So these are questions about you, the person, not you, the candidate.
Okay.
If you had to narrow it down to one single favorite thing or place in our state, what would you say?
You know, we have one of the prettiest states in the nation, and I love being outdoors. So I love hiking. I love our state parks, rather. I love being able to go down to Fayetteville. I love hiking up in Mon County. So I enjoy the outdoors. I love our little restaurants and our little shops. You know, Secret Sandwich Society or you know, some of the little pizza shops all over. That's truly what I enjoy. I love getting out and seeing new things and experiencing the outdoors and checking out our small businesses.
So, Sam, what would you say are your personal core values?
You know, I was taught at a young age that you have to work hard. I was raised by a mom and dad who worked hard. They started a little business, a little advertising paper in the living room of our 2-bedroom trailer. And I distinctly remember my mom typing up the ads on a fold-out table, and my brother and I would cut them out, and Dad would paste them, and he'd take it to back to the newspapers and shoot it. And then at 4 a.m. on Wednesdays, we'd go and deliver it all over southern West Virginia. That's what we would do before we went to school, is ride in our station wagon all over southern West Virginia. And so that's how I grew up. I mean, that's just kind of in my blood. I'm from a small business family. I watched my mom and dad work night and day to make that thing a success. I'm a small business owner. In addition to my firm, I have other small businesses. And I think that's really who I am. I think you've got to be honest. I think you've got to work hard and let people know that you're in it for the right reasons. And that's what I'm doing. That's what I've done as a lawyer, as a business owner, and as a county commissioner.
So what would you say you, the individual, are passionate about?
I want to move the state forward. I'm in this solely to move the state forward. And I tell people all the time, I don't care if it's a Republican idea or a Democratic idea. I just care if it's a good idea. And that's what I'm passionate about. My wife and I have 2 kids, a 17-year-old and a 13-year-old. I'd love for them to stay in West Virginia. I'd love one day when I have grandkids for them to be in West Virginia. So that's really my focus. I want to focus on the people. That's my passion, is creating new opportunities, making West Virginia better. And I think I can do that as governor.
So it doesn't sound like you have a lot of off time, but when you do, what do you like to do?
Well, I love family time. I love being able to load up the kids and 2 dogs, Rocco and Brentley, and taking them to the forest. We go hiking a lot. We love spending time outdoors. But any family time, I truly enjoy, and just getting outside, those types of things. That's really what we do when I have spare time. I don't watch a lot of TV. I do enjoy reading when I can. I read the paper every morning, and that's what I do when I'm not working.
Do you like to read the paper online, or you like to get the ink on your fingers?
I'm old fashioned. I like the ink on my fingers.
Me too.
I like
something about the smell. What's most unique about you as a person?
You know what? I think it's my upbringing. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I'm from very humble beginnings, and I've always been a hard worker. I remember when I went to Western University, and I was looking at what it was going to cost. And back then it wasn't that expensive, not nearly what it is now. And I remember thinking, I need to do this. I can't spend 4 years up here. I don't have the money. So I worked, took extra hours. I was taking 21 hours a semester to graduate early, and graduated in 3 years. And I think that's what's different about me, and not to disparage anyone else, but it's my upbringing, it's my background, and it's my track record. There are a lot of good candidates in this race, but if you really look at who's been able to do the most in the shortest amount of time, I think that people will find that I'm the right candidate, but and I'm doing it for the right reasons.
Well, with that, we've asked you our questions. Now we'd like to give you a few minutes to tell us and the voters anything else you feel like we need to know, including how to get more information on your campaign, how to get involved, how to get in touch with you, donate, etc.
Well, first of all, I appreciate the opportunity. We've got to have new leadership. We have got to have someone that's focused on your business, your interests, and not his own interests. We've got to make sure that we have someone who is going to work hard and get things done for West Virginia to move us forward. We have plans online, bensalango.com, or you can follow us on Twitter at bensalango, on Facebook, or if you just want to see pictures and you don't want to hear a bunch of political stuff, follow us on Instagram, because we have one of those too, at bensalango. So I appreciate the opportunity to come on, and people can reach out to me. You can we have check out our website. click an email, whatever, get a hold of me, and I'll call you back.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us this afternoon, Ben, and we've enjoyed getting to know you and getting information on your campaign and what you hope to do if you're elected. Thank you so much for talking to us this afternoon.
Thank you.
And everyone, remember, wash your hands.